Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, case number 20 CR 003-436F, in which Mr. Wright was originally charged with DUI less safe and following too closely from a December 13, 2018 incident allegedly in Fulton County, Georgia. This case was originally called for a jury trial on April 25th, 23, and it was reset to today, April 27th, in order for us to proceed with this plea hearing. Mr. Don Travis Wright is present in the courtroom with his attorney, Mr. Adam Miller. Mr. Wright, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and Mr. Miller will be representing you. This is going to be a plea hearing in which the state is going to first articulate the recommendation they're going to provide for the acceptance of a guilty plea in this case. And then after that, your attorney will make certain concessions, to which then I will be asking you some questions. The whole purpose is to determine that your plea is going to be given freely, willingly, and knowingly. In that context, may I place you on the oath for the plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Reiser, yes, what's the plea recommendation, please?
Yes, Your Honor. In regards to count 1, the state is amending that charge to reckless driving. State's recommended sentence is 12 months to serve 120 days suspended upon the completion of paying a $1,000 fine plus court costs and surcharges, to complete 240 hours of community service, to complete an alcohol drug evaluation and any treatment if deemed necessary, to complete 1 risk reduction and 1 victim impact panel, as well as attend and participate in a minimum of 12 weeks of ASAM level 1 treatment.
Repeat the last one.
Sure. A minimum of 12 weeks of ASAM level 1 treatment. And in regards to count 2, the defendant will be entering a guilty plea to following too closely. And the state's recommended sentence is 12 months probation to run consecutive. The state has no objection to mail-in or phone-in due to the defendant's residence in Philadelphia, Your Honor.
Okay. With regard to the ASAM treatments, even on level 1, has the state inquired as to whether such a program is available in Philadelphia?
I do believe it. There are programs that are available in Philadelphia. I can definitely touch base with defense counsel on it. I think if we had agreed on that as part of the negotiated agreement, I believe that we will be able to find a treatment provider for him.
All right. And Mr. Miller, do you know of any such program that's available in Philadelphia? I don't want probation to run into a wall that they can't accept those in out of state.
Right. Honestly, no, I don't have something specific, Judge, but ASAM level 1 is sort of like a standard treatment, as you know, for anyone who does alcohol related pleas. So there's something that's going to be equivalent to that in Philadelphia, I'm sure. Unless if it's not called ASAM level 1, but it's still 12 weeks of alcohol drug treatment, it won't be a problem, Judge.
Okay. I'm going to say it's going to be an ASAM level 1, 12 weeks of that kind of facility, or a comparable program, 12-week program, which involves counseling and treatment for alcohol and drug addiction.
Of course.
No objections on the state, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The ones being the 14th month, and you say, well, we still don't have one that we can agree to. Okay. Anything else, Ms. Reiser?
Nothing from the state in so much as I know this was on a motion today. Why the state is requesting such treatment is given the defendant's history. his prior DUI convictions. Given that information and looking at the age of the case and the facts surrounding the case, while we do think we can overcome a probable cause motion and hearing, I think a little bit of a lack of a DUI investigation would hinder us from being successful at a jury trial. So those are the reasons for the reduction, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Miller, does your client accept these terms, and do you stipulate the factual basis, venue, and ID for this case?
He does, and we do so stipulate.
And what's the status of the driver's license presently?
Currently, well, actually, is it in
It's actually in Florida.
Pennsylvania? It's Florida.
It's in Florida.
It's current. I'm just trying to verify which state it's out of.
Okay.
Currently, I guess it's out of Florida, but he's about to transfer it to Pennsylvania.
All right. Okay. Mr. Wright, have you consumed any medication or alcohol recently?
No, ma'am.
And have you understood the proceedings so far?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you satisfied with your attorney's representation?
Yes, ma'am.
Is anyone forcing you or inducing you to take this plea today?
No, ma'am.
And you do understand that you'll be pleading guilty to reckless driving and one count of following too closely, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you will have to submit yourself to the conditions of the recommended sentence in order to see a successful completion of probation, which will extend for the period of 4 months. Is that your understanding?
Just one question, Your Honor. Will the probation end after all the terms are?
Will.
No, okay.
It will be 24 months, and you'll have to report by mail or phone every month.
Yes, ma'am.
So as long as you live out of state.
Yes, ma'am.
So are you willing to accept that term?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has your attorney also explained to you that there won't be a right to appeal this decision after I impose the sentence from today?
Yes, ma'am.
And that you will not, and that such a conviction could increase the number of points on your motor vehicle history
Yes,
and
ma'am.
could result in a suspension.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Wright, has your attorney gone over your plea documents specifically with the fact that if you plead guilty today, you would have to give up your constitutional right to have a trial before a judge or a jury, to be able to confront your accuser, examine witnesses, challenge the evidence brought against you, and have the state carry its complete burden to prove the charges against you beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you entering this plea freely, willingly, and voluntarily?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you plead to one count of reckless driving and one count of following too closely?
Guilty.
Your sentence for the reckless driving is going to be 12 months to serve 120 days, which will be suspended as long as you complete the conditions. The following conditions that I list must be completed within the next 12 months, right? If you go into the 13th month to begin completing some of these conditions, the state has a right to have you come back to Georgia and serve at least 120 days in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, ma'am.
So these conditions must be completed within the first 12 months of probation. It's a payment of $1,000 fine plus court costs and surcharges. Complete 240 hours of community service at any nonprofit agency. You must make sure that the nonprofit agency provides you with a letter with their company's letterhead, and it's signed off by a supervisor. It can't be an email with a conformed signature. It must be an actual signature showing that you've completed at least 240 hours. You can have multiple letters, but they must all add up to at least 240 hours in the first year. You must complete an alcohol and drug evaluation by any qualified healthcare provider in Philadelphia and submit yourself to any treatment that's required. That treatment can be concurrent with the ASAM condition. All right, and your attorney will explain that to you.
Okay.
You would need to take a risk reduction class, which is like a defensive driving program. And by the school that gives you that program must be qualified by a probation officer.
Okay.
The same thing, you must attend and complete one victim impact panel. It's a program that you must watch, and you can talk to your probation officer to see how you can watch that from Philadelphia.
Okay.
All right, maybe it can be a Zoom thing, I don't know. You would need to attend and complete 12 weeks of what we refer to as an ASAM Level 1 treatment program. Or you can attend 12 weeks of a comparable and qualified program for alcohol and drug addiction, a counseling or treatment program. Whichever program you decide to do, check with your probation officer. I'm going to do this program. Is this okay? They offer 12 weeks, all right?
Yeah.
And once you get the blessing of your probation officer, then you can begin. I don't want you to begin and then find out, no, that ain't working.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As I said, the alcohol and drug evaluation treatment, if the treatment that's required by the evaluator is consistent with the comparable counseling and treatment that you receive through the ASAM Level 1, I will consider that acceptable.
Okay.
Of course, if your evaluator says you need longer than 12 weeks, then you need to do that. All right, and on the following two closely, it'll be 12 months probation to be served consecutive, which means that on the second count, the second set of 12 months kicks off after you've completed all the conditions for the DUI, for the reckless driving.
Understand?
So if I complete the term in 7 months, then the next 12 months start at that same
No, that's
point?
not what she's saying. I understand that. It's 12 months. You could
Regardless.
complete the conditions in 6. You still got 12 for that first set. And then what she's saying is after that 12, the next 12 start.
Okay, I understand.
You'll be on actual reporting probation for 24 months in total.
Gotcha.
So if you finish all the reckless driving conditions in the first 6 months, you still need to report, and then continue reporting until month 24. All right. That is your sentence, and we've already filled out the probation documents. These will go to your probation officer. As I've said, since you're in town tomorrow, you can stop by at the probation office tomorrow before 3 p.m. at 132 Mitchell Street and let them know, and we'll give you a copy of the disposition. They won't have it, or they may not be prepared, but let them know that the judge is allowing mail and phone-in reporting. So could they give you a date and time when you should call in?
Yes.
So you can speak to your probation officer.
Yeah.
All right? That concludes this case. If y'all like to have a seat.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brandy, Miss Howard, we're gonna take a pause. We have one more plea to take, so I'm just gonna see what's the status, okay? Thank you. Mr. Cole and Ms. Reiser, you all still talking?
No, we're ready, Your Honor. That will be a plain abstention.
All right. We have two young ladies at the back. You all have cases with us this morning? No? All right. Ms. Cohen, would it be all right if you take the podium? It'll be
Yes, Your Honor.
easier for the court reporter to address this. If it's signed, in absentia from your client, you'll.
I do, Judge. As I explained to Ms. Ryder, I will tell the court the same thing. Because we couldn't get it back in overnight mail and probably this afternoon.
Okay.
She sent a separate email giving me permission to sign with her express permission. We will still have that original once the mail comes back to us. And I've of course spoken to her about the term.
Any objection, Ms. Reiser?
No objection from the state, Your Honor.
And Mr. Coleman, you're about 10 feet taller than I am, so If the court reporter has a problem with the audio, she may, is that okay?
Sure, Judge.
Okay, thank you. All right, this is state versus, thank you. Graney, Graney, middle name Renee, Renee, last name Sanders, common spelling. Case number 18CR 006-780C. Ms. Sanders is accused of DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe, disorderly conduct, and obstruction of a law enforcement officer from March 17, 2017. Ms. Sanders is not physically present nor appearing via Zoom. She's represented by counsel, Mr. Miles Coven, who will be submitting a notarized document for a plea in absentia, and the state has no objection to the delayed submission. So we will proceed with this plea hearing, and Ms. Bryson, what is the plea recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. In regards to count 1, DUI alcohol less safe, the state is going to be amending that to a reckless driving. State's recommended sentence is 12 months of probation, to pay a $300 fine, to complete 40 hours of community service, to have an alcohol drug evaluation and a treatment if deemed necessary, to complete 1 risk reduction and 1 victim impact panel. In regards to count 3, obstruction of a law enforcement officer, the defendant will be entering a guilty plea to that. State's recommended sentence will be 12 months of probation, a $300 fine that is suspended upon completion of the conditions as it relates to count 1. Count 2, disorderly conduct would merge into count 3, Your Honor. And the state has no objection to mail-in or phone-in, as his client does live out of state.
That was my next request, Judge. So thank you, Ms. Franklin.
All right. Mr. Cohen, does your client, do you stipulate to the factual basis, venue, and ID?
I do on behalf of my client, Judge.
All right, based on review of the plea in absentia, the court accepts the defendant's guilty plea to 1 count of reckless driving and 1 count of obstruction of a law enforcement officer. The disorderly conduct will merge into count 3. The sentence for the reckless driving is going to be 12 months probation, $300 fine, 40 hours community service, alcohol and drug evaluation treatment, 1 risk reduction, 1 victim impact panel, mail-in and phone-in interviewing allowed. Mr. Cohen, you will need to fill out the probation information for your client, and then she will have to report to probation no later than next Thursday before 3 p.m. You may have to facilitate with probation to identify who her probation officer is so that she may reach out to that person.
That might be the hardest part of this, Judge. Have you ever been over there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. On the disorderly conduct charge that will merge on the obstruction, that's going to be 12 months probation concurrent with an additional $300 fine, which will be suspended if she completes all the conditions for reckless driving within the first 12 months. That concludes this case. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Howard, thank you very much. Do we have any other matters to address from our jury trial calendar?
No, Judge.
All right, that concludes that calendar as well. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Judge.